So watch me take out the secular view of Daniel with one verse. One verse blows it all up. Here's the stakes. Daniel prophesied 4 kingdoms. Those 4 kingdoms will be followed by the kingdom of God, Christ's kingdom. If the 4th is Rome, it happened just when it was supposed to. Daniel just foretold the coming of Jesus. Christianity is true. End of debate. But if Daniel's 4th kingdom is Greece, the kingdom didn't happen. Daniel was a fraud. And the church just picked up on some old prophecies, massaged them a little bit, made them sound like Jesus. So pretty high stakes, huh? Is Christianity true? You be the judge. In this video and the next, I'll share why the secular view of Daniel falls apart. And take a moment and comment, let me know what you think. Hopefully this isn't the foundation you're standing on, but if by the end you're still standing on it, let me know why. But it gets pretty bad. There's a linchpin verse that scholars can't answer. They won't even try. They've painted themselves into a corner, turned down the wrong street, hit a dead end. Pull this linchpin and it all comes crashing down. Check it out. It's pretty simple. At a high level, Daniel 11 is one of the most detailed prophecies in the Bible. If it's real, it's completely staggering. He prophesies the activities of kings within several empires. He only used one title for each, but when you look up the actions he prophesied, you can see there are multiple kings under that title. But no dispute there. We all agree on that. Secular scholars, Christians, we all agree that that's what he's doing. But here's where it gets tense. Daniel calls all these rulers north of Judea kings of the north. This was Syria when ruled by the Greeks, called the Seleucids. The line to the south of Judea, he calls the kings of the south. This was when the Greeks ruled Egypt. They were called the Ptolemies. So you got it, North Seleucids, South Ptolemies, but that's not so important exactly who they were. We'll just watch the structure. And here's where they get a little bit squirrely. They say Daniel got it all right up to verse 31. Then he kind of went off the rails. He knew so much about the kings up until Antiochus IV Epiphanes. But they say after that he got it all wrong. Or did he? If they're right, they conclude Daniel must have been writing at the time of Antiochus and faked prophecies that lead up to that point. Faked them because he already knew it. It was history for him. He just wrote it down and made it look like prophecy. But the stuff after Antiochus, he really tried to prophesy. But hey, it takes God to prophesy, right? This is their view. They say because none of that stuff fits Antiochus, they can date the book around the time of Antiochus. But look closely at this verse. They believe they should see Antiochus in this passage. But should they? Check out verse 36. And the king shall do all he wills. He shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak astonishing things against the God of gods. He shall prosper until the indignation is accomplished. For what is decreed shall be done. From here until the end of the chapter, we just get the pronoun he, pointing us back to this king. Is it Antiochus, the king of the north? Or do we have a new figure?
Roman legionary standards were not just like battle honors or battle flags. They were literally pagan gods. So they were the physical embodiments of the genius where we get the word genius of the legion, which was not a figurative spirit of the legion. It was a literal spirit of the legion. They believed that these things were gods, and they kept them in a shrine in the middle of their camp or in the middle of their fortresses, and they sacrificed to them periodically at various festivals throughout the year. The other thing about these idols, I mean, the main standard of the legion was the aquila, the eagle. But there were other standards as well, and they had medallions on them which depicted the various emperors, including, at this time, it would have included the emperors Augustus, Tiberius, and Claudius, who were all deified. So they were literally gods, and they were sacrificing to those gods as well.
So the question now is, has Daniel actually switched to Rome? Not only does that verse about Caesar worship fit Rome, but all of them fit wrong. And even as importantly, they don't fit Greece. The scholars admitted that. But here's what they don't tell you. That linchpin verse I was telling you about, this could never have been about Antiochus. He was the king of the north. Because both the king of the north and the king of the south actually ride out against this new king. And we can't have the king of the north riding out against the king of the north, can we? So what we have here is Daniel amazingly prophesied the Battle of Actium, where Mark Antony, who was ruling Syria at the time, king of the north, joined forces with Cleopatra, king of the south at the time, against Octavian, who would later become Augustus Caesar. At the time of the end, the king of the south shall attack him, but the king of the north shall rush upon him like a whirlwind, with chariots and horsemen and with many ships, both against Octavian, Augustus Caesar. Later it says, he will stretch out his hand against the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. He shall become ruler over the treasures of gold and silver, and the precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Cushites shall follow in his train. Antiochus never ruled over Egypt. He never conquered Egypt. But who did? Augustus. These prophecies of Rome, where it starts talking about Caesar worship, take us all the way up to Nero, the ruler just before the start of the Jewish-Roman War, the Great Tribulation. Look at what Daniel 12:1 says. At that time shall arise Michael, the great prince, who has charge of your people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never been since there was a nation until that time. But at that time your people shall be delivered, every one whose name was found written in the book. And many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, some to everlasting contempt. So when Jesus said, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken by the prophet Daniel standing in the holy place, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. For then there will be great tribulation, such as has not been from the beginning of the world until now, nor ever will be. Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away till all these things take place. And when you see these things begin to take place, straighten up and raise your heads, because your redemption is drawing nigh. Jesus wasn't repurposing Daniel. Jesus came 40 years prior to that Jewish-Roman war. Jesus and Daniel were both pointing to the same great tribulation as the time he would come into his kingdom and the first resurrection would occur. So if you want to look a little deeper into Daniel 11 and understand that period leading up to the first resurrection, check out this video here. Peace and have fun exploring all the extraordinary evidence.